So here's something I think is important. How do you stick with your vision and not become a doer of everything good? I mean, how does Living Bread not become sort of like Brunswick Stew Missions? I can do this, we can do that, we can do a little bit of this. I mean, how do you, so what are you trying to do? Mm-hmm. How have you narrowed that focus? And, I mean, how do you really stick with your vision? I think it's important. I mean, there's a lot of people doing a lot of different things than what you're doing, mm-hmm. and they're good things. But how do you stick to a vision?
Well, I mean, our vision, our mission is to plant churches among the desperately poor and to plant churches, again, that are ministering in a comprehensive, holistic way. Because we believe in the local church. We believe that God has, not that we don't believe in other ministries and God uses other organizations and other types of work. But we believe that God has instituted the church to be His agent of mission and transformation in the world. And so when we go into these slum communities where churches don't exist because people are too poor to fund a church, we believe that by establishing a church, that is the greatest thing that we can do to see that community transformed. Now, we don't stop there. Our churches are doing all kinds of different ministries and ministering in different areas. And it is hard to maintain your focus because when you go into places that are, people are hungry and starving and children are eating from the garbage and everybody's got lice and other parasites and there's trash everywhere and there's inadequate housing and inadequate education and inadequate sanitation and inadequate hygiene and disease and violence and gangs and prostitution and children being pushed into the sex slave trade and prostitution and all these things. There's just so many needs. It's overwhelming. And you can very easily allow your focus to be pulled in so many different directions.
So what is that laser focus? I mean, what are you really trying to accomplish?
Well,
what's the vision, the mission of Living Bread?
What we believe, and we've seen this on a small scale, in part because we're a small ministry, but we believe if we can go in and plant a church that will do what it's been commanded to do, and that is make disciples. And we see discipleship not as just evangelism. That's the necessary prerequisite to discipleship. But we see discipleship as the surrendering of all of life to the Lordship of Jesus Christ. And so for a disciple is someone who has allowed the rule and reign of Christ to infiltrate every area of their life. And we believe that if we can go into a community and plant a church that's doing that and teaching people and equipping people in that way, then we'll see transformation. You'll see young couples take in HIV-positive street children and give them a home. You'll see churches care for elderly women that have had strokes and are bedridden and care for them for years. You'll see churches care for elderly widows that have lost their eyesight to glaucoma. You'll see churches take in children whose parents have been arrested for drug dealing and sent to prison to keep those kids from going to living on the street. And so that's our view. If we can go and plant churches that make disciples, then we can see communities transformed for the glory of Christ and the good of His kingdom. And quite often we get asked, why don't you do child sponsorship? When are you going to do child sponsorship? I'm not knocking child sponsorship. It's a great thing, and ministries that do that do a lot of work. But the reason we don't do child sponsorship is because we're first and foremost a church planting ministry. And I feel like if we go and we offer child sponsorship, that's going to drive our giving, and ultimately, like most of the other ministries that do child sponsorship, we're going to become a humanitarian ministry. There's a need for humanitarian ministries. We believe in humanitarian ministries, but our focus is church planting. And so we do what we can to stay focused on church planting, knowing that for the long-term health of these communities, a solid local church that's making disciples is the most important thing that we can offer them.
So you say no a lot, and then when you say yes, you say it really loud.
Absolutely.
Yes, we plant churches. This is what we do.
That's right.